Hello, my name is Jessica Lucero, and this is my final presentation. In this presentation, we will discuss the core concepts that the venture company failed to meet when doing business with the Chinese company. The core concepts are business etiquette, the difference between high context and low context culture customs, the language barrier between both companies, and the negotiation process. First, we will discuss the business etiquette of the Chinese culture. They are very formal when doing business. When David and his team were welcomed by the Chinese individuals, they were wearing shorts and t-shirts that seemed too casual for the Chinese individuals' perspectives. David and his team should have been aware that they are doing business in China and should accommodate to the customs of being presentable. Secondly, the Chinese individuals are a high context culture. This means they like to host large and high quality events for their guests. David took it as a good sign when the company was offered a 12-course banquet. However, that's how Chinese individuals do business. In addition, Chinese individuals communicate in a nonverbal cue, such as body language. When the Chinese individuals were gifted the clocks by the Americans, they didn't say anything or show any facial expression. This could have been due to not building a relationship with the Chinese prior to gifting. The Chinese individuals like to bond with their business partners before actually doing business. The Americans are a low context culture that likes to do things quickly and directly. In other instances, they do not like to sugarcoat things. David and his team were thrown off by a 3-day tour and having a meeting on the 4th day. If David and his team were more knowledgeable, then they would have understood that the Chinese custom likes to form relationships before doing business. Also, the Americans were very direct towards the end of the meeting, trying to figure out why the Chinese individuals were unhappy. The Chinese individuals didn't want to comply and were reluctant to being direct with the Americans. This led for the Chinese individuals to rethink their business strategy with the Americans. Also, there was a language barrier between both companies, which included an interpreter that didn't know any technical words. This led for the process to go slower and not really build a relationship amongst companies. If both companies would have used lingua franca, which means a common language, then they would have been able to communicate more effectively. In this case, the common language was English. David and his team should have made it clear that they would like to discuss business in English and build that relationship with the Chinese individuals. Lastly, we discussed the intercultural negotiation process amongst both countries. The Chinese individuals rely on many individuals' inputs of business negotiation. This is why David and his team had to repeat themselves to 4 new business people the next day after they presented. If David and his team would have been able to come up with a strategy that demonstrates the presentation more effortlessly, they would have been able to communicate with the people better. In addition, the Chinese individuals liked to bargain, which included the 20% discount that they would have liked. The Americans were very stuck in their ways and only offered 3% for one equipment. Without the Americans being open to negotiate the price, the Chinese individuals took into consideration without convincing the Americans to bargain. This might have been the fallout of the Chinese company doing business with the Americans. Lastly, David misunderstood the high context verbal cue that means yes. In Chinese culture, yes doesn't mean a done deal. It means open for more discussion. David and his team should have been able to have a written concept that binds the contract together in order to make the business official. Overall, the Chinese company decided that the Americans were not a perfect fit for them and went with a Chinese manufacturing company instead. Maybe if David and his team were more educated in regards of the Chinese culture and customs, they would have won over the company. This concludes my presentation.